G'day everyone, welcome back to one of the last episodes of 2024. It's been a big year. We are shooting this live from our house. There's a reason for that. I wanted to invite you guys in, and usually we do this at the studio, but to me, home is where the heart is. I genuinely feel like we have a lot of discussions around home ownership, which is why I feel it's really important for us to let you guys into our house and kind of Bernie and I to shoot from the hip a little bit, but also from the heart in terms of what 2024 has meant to us personally and professionally, and also in property as well. Hey, Bernie, how you doing?
Hey, ACB, I'm doing great. Happy to be back for the last episode of the year. It's, as you know, my favorite time of year.
Where you get very reflective. Do you want to kick off? People may have heard it before when you talk about, you talk about vision boards, and we'll touch on that in a second, but also you have a closing tradition for the year as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So it started, I'd say probably maybe 15 years ago.
Yep.
It feels like it was a long time ago. We had all of our friends together for a New Year's celebration. It's quite common now. I see a lot of people online that do this. And we went around the table and everyone shared what their year was like in one word. And it became a tradition that we have held since then. I actually have a little spreadsheet for all of our words.
Yep.
And it's something that I love because it's something so personal to you, but someone would see that word and it doesn't, it's a word, but to you, it encapsulates the entire year.
And I think a lot of the pushback we get from people is, how do I summarize 365 days into one word? And that's probably part of the challenge, but also just gives you a chance to stop and reflect. And we've done a little bit of that so far as we head out into the Christmas period, just going, what do we intend for the year to happen? How did it pan out? And then how does it look for 2025? And I think for us, one of the biggest shifts and changes that we've made is particularly around our commercial property. If you've kind of followed our journey, you know that we purchased a fairly large commercial property close to our hometown here in Woonona. It was going to be the new HQ for Atelier Wealth, our new performance center, if you might. And for us, we did a real massive pivot on that where we decided we're not going to move in for a number of reasons. We're going to rent the property out. We're going to keep buying investment properties. And I feel like that has been probably one of the biggest shifts where I think we, as part of that, realigned our values to go, hang on, we were working a lot. The business came before family to the detriment of ourselves and our well-being. It's like, how do we stack the order back in our favor? Put family first, put health a higher priority, well-being, took time off for travel a little bit more this year, and then it's business. And doesn't mean it's less important, it just means there are higher priorities in life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for us, if we're reflecting on the year it's been a massive year in terms of realigning, reprioritizing our values. And I think that came from, we just got to certain points in the year where we weren't feeling great.
Burnout is probably a big
burnout.
Yep. Let's just get straight to the point again. It was probably burnout.
Feeling the stress and just really questioning what we were doing. And I have said to you, I think the last week or so, I do believe in those 7-year cycles. So they talk about human beings. We have 7-year cycles, and Aaron and I are actually, I'm in the start of my 35-year-old cycle, and Aaron's closing out his cycle, which is the one above me.
Without giving away my age.
which is he's ending the one that I'm starting. And I found it quite poetic that as I'm coming into a new cycle and as Aaron's closing out his sort of 7-year cycle, we really had this real shift and real look at what is important to us. And it became apparent that we had been living life a certain way and we had to make changes if we were going to continue to live life in a happy and meaningful way to us.
Yeah. Correct. And that brings me to, so I guess that's, for the flavour of this chat, it's pretty much what I'm calling my 10-point plan around, reflecting on 2024 and moving into 2025 to see up for success, both what I call on the field and off the field when it comes to property investing and life. So it's a bit of a mishmash in terms of an episode. So really go with me here. Again, one of the big reasons that I want to invite you into my house is because, yes, I put a book out called The Happy Home Loan Handbook this year. And this isn't to plug my book. It's more to say, the amount of people that I feel that don't feel like home ownership is attainable for them, that don't realize the value or importance of actually having your own home. That's why the book was written. It's this space here where we live it's a great home. It's functional. It's beautiful. It's what we wanted. That's no tickets on ourselves. But what's most important is we're not renting. We put down roots. We've got awesome neighbors. We've got a place that we can add value to if we really wanted to. That's not the reason that we bought it. It's because we genuinely wanted a roof over our heads for our family for the long term. And we've been down the path of rentvesting, and it just goes to the point that it wasn't serving us anymore. We actually wanted our own home. And I think that's a journey, that discussion that I have with a lot of people. As a broker, I give advice. I give life advice. I'm not one of the brokers that sit on the fence and just go, I don't know, you tell me what you want to do. I'm very, very open up front with with what I call my advice. And when I hear about younger families or aspiring families that, rentvesting, they're all in on, I'm like, yeah, I hear you, I see you. But at some point, you're going to want to scratch the itch, particularly when you get notice from a landlord to move out when you're 8 months pregnant.
Yep.
With a second baby. And I get team members that get told to move out of their homes prior to Christmas. You don't have any control over where you live and how you live, and someone's going to tell you when to move out. Personally, I don't like it. And I think if you're cut from the same cloth and you want that security and stability for your family, I think that becomes important when you have a family, as opposed to us when we could bounce around, the two of us, and we could pack up on a dime's notice and move to a new neighborhood.
Yeah, I think it comes with a big caveat. I think we really found for us, we wanted those roots. When we had our family, we wanted to know what school they were going to, who our neighbours in our community would be. But when we were married, double income, no kids, dinks, we moved every year. We loved it. We would live in a new neighbourhood. We would check out the sites. We were done. We'd move on to the next one. So it really is a time and a place, I think, ACD. And rentvesting is perfect if you're a dink, I think, if you are on that journey. But there definitely comes a point if you have a family, or if you want to have a family, I think having that on your horizon, that, particularly that there's always one in the relationship that always wants a little bit more stability and roots.
Absolutely.
And possibly the other one, wants to keep floating around. It's not quite as easy with kids.
Oh, absolutely. With kids, it does become a bit of a game changer. So something to think about. So that's probably step one, is identifying if, a home or investment, probably rentvesting path, you need to go down a certain pathway. So that's step one. The second point kind of follows off the back of that, which is investing as a couple versus a single. Being single, disadvantages, you got one income to invest with. Double income, you got two lots of borrowing capacity income, so it increases your borrowing capacity. But what that also means is it's a double-edged sword, because you cannot build a house off two different blueprints. So financially, you cannot scale off the back of having two different ideas. And you don't want it to be win-lose, where someone concedes and the other person wins. It's not really a great outcome. How do you get to a point that it's a win-win? And I don't think you can probably take two bites of the cherry, which is I want to own my own home and invest. So then it's a discussion around, but what do we actually want? When do we want it? How are we going to get there? And it's very much a life conversation as opposed to a mortgage conversation that you may be having as well. I think this is a conversation that we've had to have a number of times, which is, hey, what are we actually doing? Where do we want to live, and how do we want to live life, right?
Absolutely. And I think an extension onto this as investing as a couple, ACD, is we recently went to a property investing course, like Summit, which was incredible. But something I did notice was typically there was one person out of the couple there. Now, not always. Spot on. Not always, but I'd say for maybe 50% of the room, there was one person from the couple there and the other person was at home. Now, there's circumstances that mean, both parties can't be at the same time, work, kids, all that stuff. But then there were other couples where both were there. And I just felt like the couples that were both there in it together got so much more value and will walk away with so much more value than the person that was there on their own from the couple. Because you come back from summits and it's not, property investing, it's, it's like energy. Development, like professional, like personal development, like a Tony Robbins course or something. You go to it by yourself, you come back, you're amped. You're like, what about this? Let's try this. Let's go again. Like, let's make, the plan was this. Now it's like 10 times this. And the other person was at home, like just having a normal day or like at work, and they're like, dude, no, now's not the time. So I feel like any opportunity that you can as a couple to carve out that time to learn together, to reflect together, that is where you're really going to get the value.
It also, when I speak to a lot of people, especially you've been listening to our podcast, you listen to a number of other podcasts as well, one person's taking the lead. So you think about how many hours you've spent learning, consuming, listening to this type of content, and then you're going to go to your partner and go, here's what we're doing, or here's what I'm excited to do. The first thing that happens is the other person becomes a bit of a handbrake because they're going, hang on, you've got shiny objectitis, for example. You're rushing to who's this new idol that you found and why you believe everything they're saying. And then the other person's going to go, I need to protect us and put the handbrake, which, that's the other partner that hasn't spent the hours putting in the deep work, listening to the podcast, getting familiar with the content, getting familiar with the ideas, doing the research. So just think about it, how many hours you've spent getting to this point in your journey, and you're expecting your partner to come up to the same level as you with an instant's notice.
Definitely. And I will say, with a huge caveat, we have only just gotten on the same page this year.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And we've been married now 11 years, together for 14 and a half. And so this is taken time. And I know there are a lot of listeners already who are on the same page as couples. But if you're not on the same page as your couple, don't feel and don't listen and think oh, look at them, they work together, they've got it all sorted. Can guarantee you we only got it sorted.
Financial friction exists.
Financial friction exists, and financial investing goals and risk appetite differences exist.
What you've grown up seeing, what I've grown up seeing, the attitudes around money,
how money was spoken about in your house versus
differences in earning, like how much you earn, I earn, for example, and who manages the budget in the household. This is all the layers deep that conversations aren't being had. So my suggestion is you listen to a lot of podcasts. They talk about where to buy, how to buy, what to buy. No one is talking about how to invest as a couple or as a family. And I feel like this is a massive conversation that needs to be had. And that's why I love having Bernie on, because the amount of times I speak, with all due respect, I speak to a lot of males that want to invest, and it's sometimes the female voice that's going, hang on, I need to protect what we've got. I want to pay off my home as quickly as possible. I don't want to risk what we've got.
Yes.
And it's a very feminine, masculine energy. And I was saying to Bernie the other day, I reflected as to probably why, I got given 2 daughters and love them dearly, but I have a lot of masculine energy. So for me, the work that I do, it's finance, it's numbers, it's closing out sales, it's leading a team, for example, it's the marketing, and in my day-to-day, it's a lot of sales and it has a lot of masculine energy to it. So I feel like I needed to balance that out with some good feminine energy in and around my house. It's how I reconciled having 2 girls yell at me all the time, which is cool. But I think it's also important. Expressing their emotions is one way of putting it. But then I think when also people listen to, I think when Sam has his partner Morgan come on their podcast, that's great for female listeners to hear a female voice come to the table. I think it's really important when people hear your voice that there's a female voice heard in property investing, because I don't think that happens too often in this genre.
Definitely. And also I feel like as a female, naturally that risk, you're wanting to protect what is so natural, is such a natural energy. Also, though, I think seeing is believing. If I think about, the purchase that we made this year, I was very reluctant. I went into that thinking, I'm just going to do it. And I'm so sorry. This is just the total truth. I'm just going to do it to shut Aaron up, just so it's so I'm sorry to say that, but just so it's done. And I'm sure there are other females out there who have just gone, just do it so he stops talking about it. The success that we've had with that property purchase, because we aligned with the buyer's agent that was on the same page as what we wanted to achieve. And the success that we've had with that property has made me see what is possible. And now next year, I'm the one that's pushing.
You're taking the lead.
I've taken the lead. I'm like, all right, we've done this with one. Let's how do we make this go again and again and again and just keep going? Yeah.
I think it's a good lesson to learn there. The next one I'm going to touch on speaks to some people that are listening as a good portion of high income earners. So I deem that probably, you're earning 250K plus, for example, in around there. And what I find a lot of the time is because you're earning such a good income, you don't have your back against the wall to find other ways to grow your wealth because your income is pretty good. Now, I got interviewed by a journo and they're talking about, how hard it is for people actually buy in Sydney with an income of 200K plus. And I was like, yeah, it's actually, I say 200K is the new 80K. That's at 200K, you've got a good lifestyle. You don't have a lavish lifestyle.
No, I think you're paying the bills, rent, mortgage.
Yep. You got maybe a holiday here or there, but you're not like, there's no savings bucket is what I'm finding.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've scaled your lifestyle to a certain level. We'll come to lifestyle in a second. But what if you're on a good income, I'm talking to you. You are one pen flick away from losing that good income. And I've had clients that are in tech that have been unemployed for a year. They were on some really good wickets because the CEO changes, management changes, direction changes, sales KPIs change. They find themselves on the receiving end of a restructure, and suddenly they're going, that high income is hard to come by in a tightening job market if that's you. Or you got to think the role that you're in may be highly specialized. How easily could I find another role at that level in a competitor's organization? Just have a think about it. I'm going to leave it there. The amount of times that I see high income earners put all their energy and effort into working on their company's bottom line and financials, and they know their business's financials and they do not know their own financial position, that scares the out of me when I'm talking to them going, why are you putting yourself on the lower end of the priority list and you're putting your company ahead of you? I don't get it.
I mean, I think we all want to do a good job. And we want to be.
Doesn't mean you're bad at your job when you make yourself a priority as well.
100%. 100%. It's a priority. It's a priority.
I think you're highly defined by that, your career and that success and that paying, that income.
Naturally. And I think a lot of us, we've been taught to go to school, go to uni, get a good job, work hard, climb the corporate ladder. And I think I think millennials, maybe what a lot of us are seeing, that's just simply not going to cut it. It's not going to get us to a point when we retire, we're comfortable and we can go on those holidays in retirement, or that we can travel. Maybe we want to enjoy life as we're going along the journey, right? And I think that old rhetoric of work hard, pay off your mortgage, save, it's a very old rhetoric, and it will not work for us if we want to live the lives we want to lead.
Yeah, there's two parts of it. One is I think it's a bit of a golden handcuff. You got those good incomes, you're working long hours, you probably don't have the bandwidth or energy to focus. We'll come back to team later in this chat. The second part is, I don't know if you think maybe it's a little bit below you to be buying properties at 550, 500, for example, and going, they're cheapies compared to what I could buy on my income. Again, I'll challenge you on that as well. It's all part of this learning journey that you're going to be on. Don't think it's below you. I've seen people where they're doing better than their managing director in their organization, because their managing director may have a great lifestyle. They're renting, the kids are in private school, the cars are on lease. They've got no assets to show for it. Yes, they're cash on paper, they're cash rich, but I'm telling you, cash flow wise, they're not doing that great. And but people that are younger than them that have multiple properties in their portfolio, that if they liquidated them, they would be much better, even though they're not at the same income threshold. So just something to think about there, that if you're on a good income, just think, how dependable is that income long term, and could you be thinking about other sources of revenue?
Right.
The next one here, there's nothing to read into this personally, but I think it's something that as a society, be prepared for. People want to see you do well until you start doing better than them. And I see this, I'm going to call on a couple of clips. I think the one with Australian Property Scout, I saw that, and we've got to know Sam Gordon and his team really well. I've seen this with Eddie Deline on Daily Mail, like that they pick these up and they talk about how many properties these people own. And it's like, hey, as a nation, why aren't we championing that and going, hasn't this person done really well? Like, they weren't born with a silver spoon. They've done really well. Why aren't we celebrating that? Instead, we're tearing them down. And that goes across the board with so many people, whether that's in media, for example, or sports, for example. They do really well, and then we find reasons to tear them down. And tall poppy exists. And this is hard to say, but it exists.
I mean, it's a hard subject to discuss. We have spoken about it, and we have said, if you are doing well, somewhere like a country like the US, you would be celebrated there.
I mean,
right?
Grant Cardone gets celebrated because he has so many properties. You say that here and they're like, what a flog.
I know. I understand it. And I think I think it's just being important and aware of it. And then also, if we can't change it, because if that's a cultural thing right here for Australians, if that's a cultural thing, what can we do about it?
100%. And you touched on the summit, and I think it's where you pick your audience to celebrate your successes. So your friend network may be struggling with home ownership, and you might be on your fourth or fifth investment property. That's not a conversation that goes down very well when you say you bought your fifth property. You might celebrate that success and champion. We love it when you buy that next property. We're on your side, right? Your friends may be struggling, and it's like, damn you, how'd you do that? And they don't realize that you had to speak to 10 brokers, speak to 5 buyer's agents, speak to the right accountant. It took a lot of sweat equity to get you to this point, and that's what you're trying to say. But what gets interpreted is, mate, what a douche. Now this guy's on his, or girl's on a fifth property, and look at them with their massive ego, and all you want to do is help them get into the property market. So who's going to celebrate your success? I think sometimes you need to pick the community that you're part of. The property summit that Bernie mentioned is when people got up and they spoke about how many properties there were. That was championed, that was clapped, that was celebrated. And I think that's where you need to find that inner sanctum where you can have those conversations around what you're achieving without people tearing you down.
I feel like we've spoken about this. Like, find your property friends. Like,
pick your audience.
You got your school friends, you got your uni friends, got your work friends. Find your property friends. I don't know what you guys do. If you go for an ice bath together, sit in the sauna, like, talk about what your strategies are, like what's next. But find your tribe, and that's who you want to celebrate, those wins and those strategies and plans.
Just to give you an idea, we tried this with a couple of really, really good clients, brought them into an inner sanctum, what I called the property powerhouse, and we brought them online and Zoom. They didn't know each other, and that kind of made things even better because they didn't know each other from a bar of soap. And we just said, how many properties do you own? How much are you earning? What are you looking to do? And it was just this ability to share without judgment that made the property powerhouse a really, really good little click. If that's something that you're interested in, I don't know, reach out. If there's enough people in this community that are listening that want to be part of a powerhouse, I've got some ideas for 2025 that I think we can get off the ground. But you let me know if there's an appetite for that, and I'm happy to facilitate that as well, because I really feel like that's a place where you can come in, no judgment, celebrate your wins and successes, but also be held to account on what you're going to do next as well.
Yep. Find your property friends.
Yes. Which comes to the next one, which is finding the right team. And this is, again, I hear this time and time again where I'm speaking to people like yourselves that are listening that reach out to our team and go, in the first 5 minutes, they're going, oh, you guys know your stuff. I'm like, yeah, of course. We're strategic mortgage brokers. We're not run-of-the-mill mortgage brokers that are saying, I don't know, maybe you can have an offset, maybe not, annual fees, LMI is the enemy, like all this crap stuff that I hear a lot of mortgage brokers kind of peddle and make our lives a little bit harder. I'll give you one example. I had young clients up in Queensland, shout out to them. They reached out, gone to their parents' mortgage broker, must be a fuddy-duddy, and he said, nah, you need to be earning $200K to buy an investment property. I said, what? Show me your numbers. Respectively, I'm not trying to betray any confidence here. I'll just change the numbers a bit. But they would have been earning household income probably about 150. Their loan to value ratio was about 45, 50%. I'm like, man, you got equity and you got borrowing capacity to go and buy the next property and maybe one in a self-managed super fund if we wanted to as well. And they sat there going, we knew that broker wasn't right. We knew that didn't sound right. And they're glad they reached out. I was like, I'm glad you reached out too, because we can completely rewire this pathway that you're headed down.
Absolutely.
Like, I just feel like, yes, it's a bit of roll up your sleeves and find the right person, find the right team to be surrounded by, but don't get sucked into either someone's marketing funnel or don't sit there and take bad advice. Pick up the phone, do some research and find people that are in your corner that are going to support you on your journey as well, because no one's going to care about your journey as much as you do.
Oh, this is such a big one for me, that analogy, ACD. And, I think if I can maybe tap into some of that more feminine energy at this point, I think there was also a gut instinct. Like, that couple, they were told this by that broker and they were like, we knew that wasn't right. Like, something didn't feel right. Like, listen to those little voices.
But they could have given up at that point.
And they could have given up, but they didn't. And they listened to their gut. They listened to something going, no, this doesn't sound right. And we're going to get a second opinion.
Yeah.
So, like you would sometimes if you're seeing a doctor, you get some feedback. You're like, no, I don't want just.
You take your car in somewhere and they're like, oh, I don't really get a vibe.
Yeah.
Is this actual legit advice that I'm getting?
Listen to those vibes. Listen to those gut instincts.
Yep. Which then forms one of my next points, which is actually around the mindset and coming into this with the mindset that if you want to be an investor, you got to do what an investor does. You got to think that way. You got to rewire yourself to see that, yes, I am successful. Yes, I am worthy of success. Yes, I am capable of doing this. Yes, it won't be easy, but geez, mate, nothing in life worth achieving is easy as well. So there are ways to do this. And I feel like even just the most simplest things, put on some Jim Rohn on YouTube, start your morning right with that, for example. I feel like I'm going to tap into a bit more woo-woo on this point as well, which is you need to be feeding yourself the right energy and what goes in, what comes out.
Absolutely. I think there's so many ways you can do this. I've heard a really good one. I'll just throw out a few names of people that they can listen to on YouTube. If you're looking to fill your cup with good stuff, there's Jim Rohn, there's Brian Tracy, which is a new guy I've tapped into, Tony Robbins, of course. If you're looking for a female energy, there's Marissa Peer online. And if you look up any of those names and just tap into some of they've got 10-minute affirmations. They've got listen to this every morning. Use that as a little bit of motivation or to fill your cup. Something that I heard from Brian Tracy, one of his YouTube clips, was every morning wake up and write down your top 3 goals that you're working towards, whatever they are. So it might be, I want to own 5 properties. I want to be financially fit. I want to earn this much. I want to be, this many kgs. I want to lift this much. Whatever your top 3 are, write them down every morning. And every morning and every night, you reflect on what you did to achieve those goals. And you do that every single day. And it's not the repetition. And what you're doing is you're putting this into your subconscious. And you're making your subconscious, even when you sleep, become attuned to this. You attract this. And I think this is work that we've done a lot of over the years. And
that's why it's called the work, because it never ends.
It never ends. And I'll go for stretches and I'll be really consistent, and then I'll fall off and I'll be I can feel my mind turning to the negative. And I'll be like, why have I gone that way? I went, because I haven't been doing my work.
Yeah, I think we've both been doing, we've got our own personal coaches that we work with. We invest heavily into a psychology of success, for example. If you're looking to someone that's attuned to, upskilling themselves and leveling up on a personal front, that's what you want in your team. You don't want someone that's kind of sitting back on their laurels. I say to everyone that comes into our business, every day is day one for me. You don't care about my track record. You don't care about this business's Google reviews or the awards, for example. If you're coming in as a new client, for example, it's day one. And it's like, show me, prove to me that you're worthy. And I think that's one part. Yes, we'll have off days. Yes, we're not perfect. No one is. No client is perfect, if I can be truthfully honest as well. Some are awesome. No one's perfect. But I also am a big believer in you can't be what you can't see, which is you either need mentors or people around you, or you need something like a vision board, which is visual cues, which we've spoken about in one of our old episodes, which is one of your specials, BCD, which is vision boards.
Everything you can do to attune your conscious, subconscious, and superconscious mind to attaining the life of your dreams and the things that you want to achieve, you have to give it a go. Whatever, journaling, meditating, creating the vision board, the visual cues. I know people that write Post-it notes and stick them on their bathroom mirrors. There's a high five method. Every time you look in a mirror, you high five yourself. You are constantly telling yourself that you are a success, that you're going to achieve what you want to achieve, and you're working towards those goals.
Spot on. I love it. Number 7, don't deviate from the plan. There's no worse thing than shiny objectitis. I'll see it all the time with people. We'll start on a game plan and then we'll get a little bit of traction, a little bit of success. And then it's like, right, now I'm going to completely switch plans. And probably one of the biggest ones I see is bought a couple of properties and now I'm going to go be a developer. And I'm like, what do you know about developing? I'm curious. I don't know, mate, but I think I can really kind of accelerate this journey. I'm like, okay, you're now going to project manage this, and it's going to take you out of what you do daily, which is your active role. It's going to put you into another active role as well, whereas investing in property should be deemed passive. Set and forget. Don't think about it. Less decisions, the better. And in fact, decision fatigue is where it kills investors where they've got to overthink, overcomplicate it. And it's like, guys, this game plan could be, guys, girls, this plan could be incredibly simple. Why are you overcomplicating it?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I'll put our hands up to say we're probably guilty of this as well. It's like,
this comes from an absolute experience share.
This is experience, right? And I think we, again, with that values realignment this year going, that didn't work. And we're going to go back to what we've had experience with what works.
Correct. Boring can be successful and also profitable.
Correct.
Yeah. So again, if you think, hey, look, I'm taking a slower approach, I'm buying one resi and I'm waiting. If you've bought well, if you've used a good buyer's agent, if you've done your due diligence, sometimes you just need a bit of time and some time on the sidelines or unnecessarily waiting. You then plan your next moves. Don't sit still. But just know sometimes you might be in a season of holding and sometimes you're in a season of accelerating. Just learn to accept that and don't try and shortcut your success as well, because the amount of times I see that and then it sets people further back. Again, I'm speaking from experience here. We say success leaves clues, but also mistakes will do the same too. Just note that one down. The next one for me is being organized and being prepared as well. I feel like this comes, again, from a place of love when I say this. I would not trust a buyer's agent that doesn't force you to be pre-approved to buy a property. I'm just going to say that again. I would not trust a buyer's agent that did not force me to get pre-approved. And I hope every buyer's agent's listening hears this because it shocks me. It shocks me the amount of times I see buyer's agents rush a purchase to then give it to a client who is nowhere near pre-approval and doesn't know what their budget is. I'd be very worried. I've seen it time and time again. It concerns me. It puts a huge amount of pressure and stress on a client, also us as well. It's not how the process should go. So when you trust the process, that's how it should be. I think that's very much why we like working with Australian Property Scout, because you cannot go down to their list without a written pre-approval. I think it should be mandated that you're taking on a brief for someone that's pre-approved. I know I've harped on about it, which shows you the importance of it as well, because quite frankly, to me, it smells like commission breath. When a buyer's agent is trying to close out a deal with no pre-approval in place, it smells like commission breath.
I mean, it's just alarming, ACD, and I hate it when clients buy without a pre-approval.
It breaks the golden rule. You wonder why people go, this is a stressful experience. It doesn't have to be. In fact, it can be super, super enjoyable.
Yeah.
You've made it stressful by going and buying a property without pre-approval.
Yeah.
You're putting a gun to the bank or the broker's head going, now you have to find a way to make this work.
Yeah.
And if there are any chinks in the armor, i.e. we've got some lenders that are slow, i.e. we've got lenders that ask a lot of questions, i.e. we've missed something on the way, for example, because we're moving at pace, or worst case, the valuation comes in short or different or something in the report's a deal breaker, mate, the clock is ticking and you're wondering why you're stressed. And then the worst thing is clients can take a holiday during that time as well. It's like, why are you buying a property while you're going on holidays? Like,
oh, yeah.
What are we doing here?
I mean, yeah, that's something we can talk about later. And also, but what I'll do is extend on, if you do get pre-approved, I think this is something we've seen as well, and you go to your buyer's agent and you explain, we're pre-approved, this is our loan, this is our max purchase price, and your buyer's agent then comes back to you and presents your property that is above that purchase price, unless there is some...
I'd be questioning it.
Yeah. Why? They are not listening to your brief.
Yeah.
And I would push back. It doesn't matter whatever they say about you're pre-approved for a certain amount, you can buy this property. We can't go over it and just push back
or the next purchase was dependent on a purchase price of number one or number two, and then it's like it has a knock-on effect for your subsequent purchase as well, because we're looking for a certain price point, using a certain deposit or equity, and just understand it has a knock-on effect in part of your portfolio. So I feel like for us, when we talk about being organised and prepared, another one, and this may be just a chance for me to kind of get things off my chest a little bit here, credit cards. If you're a serious investor and you're holding on to credit cards, I've actually got to ask the question, how serious are you? Legitimately, how serious are you when credit cards do not serve you when it comes to borrowing capacity? Yeah. I'll give you an idea. Your income as a multiple, you can borrow 4.5 times generally your income level. A credit card will downweigh you by 5 times. So it's actually more of a burden against your income. Just think about that. It downweighs you more than your actual earning, like your PAYG income does by having a credit card, because banks will take 5 times. So a $2,000 credit card will reduce $10,000 in borrowing capacity. That's not a lot. No one I meet has a 2K credit card. We're talking 15, 20, 30K in credit cards. And it's like, I don't use it, but I still want it for points. I don't know. You convince me I'm wrong, that points are more important than property, and I'll stand corrected. But I don't see people having flush with points that take that as more important than buying income producing assets.
Yeah, that's ACD's.
Have I laboured my point?
Yes.
Don't get me started on car loans, by the way. Oh, actually, get me started on car loans.
I mean, I think we can talk about it briefly, maybe. If you're serious.
Yep. We're talking to serious. If you're listening and you got this far and you've listened to that many episodes, I deem you a serious investor.
Okay. So, everyone listening, serious.
Serious investor.
Okay. This is from experience.
Yeah.
We had a car. It was on a car lease.
Yeah. This is how many years ago? It was before Sienna. This is like 8 years ago. I started the business.
This is the start of the business.
This is how serious I took it.
I think it was directed by me as well. So I will put some.
This is what happens when you get your wife on an episode. That's all.
Anyway, we had this car and we're starting the business. As most business owners, though, the first few years, it's
lean.
It's lean. And we looked at ourselves and we went, what are we doing with this car lease? And we walked into a dealership. We said,
Here's the keys. Make me an offer.
And give us that crappy.
Give me the cheaper car. And I walked out. I'm probably one of the few people that's walked out of a dealership with a check in hand.
With a check. He was very confused by what we were trying.
He's like, are you downgrading your car? I'm like, yes. And I've got to tell you, a lot of people in my network, the first thing that they said was, is business not going well? And I knew at that point I was doing something right when people were judging me by the brand of car that I was driving. I drive a very functional car. It's a Mazda 3. Bernie drives a Mazda CX-9. I think they're probably collectively over 10 years old each. And I just feel like there's no impressing people when it comes to cars. They're a depreciating liability. We put them on our balance sheet as an asset. Let me get this straight. They're a depreciating liability. They cost you money. They're not income producing assets by any means. Why are you financing vehicles when we should be financing properties?
Oh, yeah.
And in fact, we do not finance. We don't have an asset finance part of our business. We've got someone external to our business that does the occasional one. Very occasional. She's awesome.
She's phenomenal. And I think for us, something that really struck us was we had this car lease. I can't remember how much it was.
It was $50,000 paying, I think, $750 a month.
$750 a month. Now, that is money now that we don't have that goes towards a property,
Correct.
Like something that is one growing in capital value and also rental income increases. And yeah,
we laboured the point.
Yeah.
If you come to me and go, how do I increase my borrowing capacity? And I say, downgrade your car, you got 2 options. You'll listen or you won't. And then you kind of figure out, well, how do I, as a magician, conjure up more borrowing capacity? I'm telling you, that's how you do it. I can tell you that because I've done it. There'd be very few brokers out there. I know brokers. I know what they drive, for example. There'd be very few brokers that will put their money where their mouth is when it comes to giving that type of advice, because they can't. Yeah.
Play the long game, guys.
100%. The cars will, in time, the cars will get better. I got a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. The first thing happens, they trash that car. And I see people that have really nice cars. I'm like, mate, I know this can't be practical because I see Apple cores left in the backseat of my car, which shouldn't be there a week later. And I don't know.
Yeah, it's not that bad in this house. But
I'll tell you, you haven't looked. Anyway, the next one. The attitude, and again, it probably flows on from that point going, you know it, now what are you going to do with it? And this is where I feel like this is the X factor when it comes to investors. If those that can invest in themselves and their career and move their incomes up, I'm sorry, but there's no magic trusts that will increase your borrowing capacity as much as everyone on YouTube is telling you that trusts give you unlimited borrowing capacity. But I'm sorry, that's YouTube clickbait. That's getting a lot of views, for example. Trusts are a vehicle that enable you, yes, to keep purchasing properties. There is no silver bullet when it comes to increasing your borrowing capacity. Income is one lever to pull. Expenses are one lever to pull. That's how banks work serviceability.
Yeah.
You've been around, you know it.
I know it. I don't know if there's much more to add. I think that it is there's this fine line of when you're starting your property journey where you're very hungry and very eager, but usually your incomes are lower.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
when you're young, you're eager, but you just don't have the means.
You don't have the means. You're not quite. You can maybe buy one. You can buy two. Maybe you can get to three, and then you sort of get to that stagnating point.
When a lot of these investors were building portfolios, I know there's a lot of buyers agents out there that are going like, I've got decent portfolios. That's cool. At the time, and I know it because I'm in lending. You go back 5 years ago, no one cared what your HEX balance was. No one cared how much your credit card limit was. They didn't shade rental income by 20 to 30%, for example.
They didn't include strata as a...
Strata, private health insurance wasn't included as well. We did loans when they took the actual... So if you had loans that were on interest only, they took the repayment on those loans at interest only. Now they converted to P&I, add a loading on top of that, bang, reduces your borrowing capacity. Plus, living expenses absolutely rocketed up from where they used to be a few years ago. So yes, they bought properties, and yes, they will continue to. But when they started building and acquiring a portfolio, lending was very different then as well. So don't compare yourself to where they are. So don't compare your starting line to their finishing line, because when they were building portfolios, it was a very different time when it came to lending.
You guys are running your own race, whether you're on your own or you're a couple or a family. Look to others for inspiration. Take other people's tips, clues, tricks for success. But please always remember you are running your own race, your family, and all you can do is be better than you were the day before, 1% better every day. And how do you do that? You do that in all aspects of your life. It's across your work, your employment, your career, your investing.
It's how you show up everywhere.
It's how you show up everywhere. With your partner, with your kids. It's everything. And I think that's definitely something I want to listeners to walk away with, because this is something that they'll listen going into the end of the year. It's, sometimes we set those big goals, and we need those goals because we need them to work towards. But remember, it's the minute, incremental daily goals. It's the 1% every day. How do I be better every day?
And just to round out point 10, it's playing the long game and losing the ego. So it's two parts to it. Our business is now, you may know my journey. The first 1.5, 2 years almost didn't exist because I had a mortgage choice franchise, had to start again when we set up Atelier Wealth. But everything was moving forward, it was failing forward. And 10 years, I got to say 10 years, we're 8.5 years into our business, our current business, but I just felt like it started to really kick up a gear because we've played the long game. We've made decisions, we've worked the hours, made sacrifices. And if you trust your investing journey the same way, we are willing to put in 10 years. And if anyone's listening that's been on calls with me, I usually say this, I'm like, people will ask us in 10 years' time how we've done it. I'm leaving breadcrumbs now. I'm saying we're on the journey with you. We're in the trenches with you. We're doing this together. People will be asking you how you did it in 10 years' time, and you might be trying to bring people on the journey with you, and they don't want it, okay? You can't force people to come on this journey with you. You do you, boo. But I'm saying come on the journey. If you're looking for partners that want to go on play the long game, we are the partners for you. This is me not fishing for business. This is me saying find the team that's going to build you up, that's going to lift you and help you grow financially for long term, because that's what we're trying to do. We're all trying to level up. And I feel like there's no ego. Lose the ego. This is not a flex about how many properties you own so you can tell it to people. In fact, we're trying to fly under the radar in that sense by going, we just want to show up as good people, good landlords, helping other people win. There's enough out there for people to win. There's no scarcity mentality that sits behind this as well. And to let you into a lot of the conversations I have with people, it's saying, well, I'm asking, why do you want this net passive income? What are you looking to do? And I'm telling you now, it boils down to not a fancy car, not fancy watches, not a fancy house, for example. It's I want more time with my family. I want to work less. I want to enjoy my life. I want to leave something for my kids. I want to have a comfortable retirement. I want to pay off my loan quicker. I want to find a role that's maybe more aligned to me or more enjoyable. And then I just want to create a better lifestyle. And there's no ego in that. They generally are seeking out to improve their lives, and property investing is one way to put your foot on the accelerator and get there within your own your own lifetime and your generation. And that's where we kind of round out. And when we talk about intergenerational wealth through property, if you set yourself up, you can then set your family and your kids up as well.
Well said, ACD. And I think it comes back to values, right? A lot of those people, when they speak to you about the net passive that they want, all of those things that you just spoke about, it's all values based. Like, they know what's important to them, and they're not doing it to
flaunt it.
They're doing it because they want choice.
That's what every conversation I have, I just want the ability to have more financial freedom, which equals choices in life. We've all been there where it's like you have no choice to get up, go to work, pay the bills, come back, sleep, repeat, and you go, I have no choice in my lifestyle. It's like I need to get out of this rut and off this hamster wheel. And the fastest, most effective way to do that is finding something like property investing in conjunction with personal development, in conjunction with career development. If you can hit all three, I'm telling you, in 10 years' time, look where your life will be. And this is me. Maybe it's a little pep talk coming into the end of 2024 into 2025, where you now get a little bit pensive, reflective on what the year was. Did you hit those goals? What are you looking for 2025 to really be like? And can you grab it by the horns and say, this is my year and nothing's going to stop me as well? Because if that's the attitude, I want to match that energy and say, we hear you and we see you. How do we help you grow your portfolio as well? So from my family to yours, I want to say, have an awesome Christmas break. I want to say, I hope you enjoy your time. The fact that you're listening to this, I think, puts you in the top echelon of people that are actually carving out time to focus on themselves and their wealth being. So what I call wealth being, which is their financial position that improves their well-being. So thank you. That's a wrap from us. Have a great new year, and we'll talk to you in 2025.